Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Wanda Resnata Distiawan, and today I will be the host for today's academic discussion. And the topic for today's discussion is preventing teenager from violence, drug, and alcohol and an unhealthy social media. A context of this topic would be that there are a lot of exposure to on-screen violence, unhealthy social media habits, and the temptation to begin an unhealthy pattern with drugs and alcohol, which worries and threaten the problems in teenager. And in today's academic discussion, we have four amazing people who are willingly to participate in this academic discussion. The first one is Jufa Belaliani as the professor of psychology and expert in preventing teenager from violence, drug, and alcohol and unhealthy social media. The second one is Kang Shahid Albana, which is as a professor of education or an expert. The third one is Putri Nurwanda as a Muslim cleric. And the fourth or the last is Nabila Jasmine as the parenting expert in this discussion. Okay, before we move on to today's topic and to the point of view of each of the participant in this academic discussion is that I would like to give a current status quo or a heads up to what today's discussion is going to be revolving around. The first one is let's begin with understanding why we need to keep away the violence, drug, and harmful social media that is going to be affecting the educational program in today's era because there are so many conflict resolution, anger management, and understanding in the emotion. And these experts who are here today or who are present today are going to give a certain understanding from each of the field. So without further ado, let's invite Zulfa Belaliani as the professor or the psychology and expert in parenting. So time and screen are yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Wanda, for the opportunity. So my name is Yuka Belaliani, professor of psychology or expert preventing teenagers from violence, drug and alcohol, and unhealthy social media. Before that, I completely agree with the statement about exposure to on-screen violence, unhealthy social media, and the temptation to begin unhealthy patterns with drugs and alcohol are worrying problems threatening teenagers. And before moving deeper, we have to know first the relationship between social media, violence, drug, and alcohol. And a study conducted by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia University found that teenagers who regularly use popular social media were more likely to drink, use drugs, and do violence than adolescents who either didn't use social media or use it less frequently. Therefore, even though social media platforms offer various benefits, they can also contribute to certain risk factors. And moving forward, first we have to understand the risk factors that can cause teenagers to become involved in violence, drug and alcohol, and also unhealthy social media behavior. And this includes peer and celebrity influences. So in this context, social media exposes teenagers to the lifestyles and behaviors of their friends or celebrities that often shows content featuring violence, drug use, and alcohol consumption, so that teenagers often who might idolize these figures might be influenced to imitate their behaviors and consider it as an acceptable behavior. So those social media can spread misinformation about the dangers of drugs, alcohol, and also violence. And further to that, research has also shown that there is an undeniable link between social media use and negative mental health issues. So when teenagers are struggling with stressful and emotional problems, they will often turn to drugs or alcohol as a coping mechanism to help manage their difficult feelings. So in addition to the risk factors, here parents and educators hold a crucial role in supporting teenagers' well-being. And according to the American Psychology Association, we can do several things to prevent such a bad thing from happening. First, watch for signs. It means that parents and educators need to pay more attention to changes in our child's behavior. We may look for signs such as poor grades, abrupt changes in friendship, abnormal eating or sleeping habits. And second, monitor the company they keep. It means that we need to keep an eye on the people our child spend time with. We can set rules concerning playtime with friends and time spent online. And the last one is be a friend to your child. Teenagers who doubt themselves or feel disregarded by their parents or teachers are often the ones who seek drugs, alcohol, and violence. Therefore, here, parents and educators need to go beyond modeling good behavior and create a positive environment for their children by spending time together, communicating, and creating shared experiences. So that's all from me. I give it back to Wanda.
Okay, thank you, Julfabella, for that insightful as a professor in psychology in this context. And your statement was revolves around coping mechanisms. So the next point of view that I would like to hear from is from Kang Shahid Albana as a professor of education. So time and screen are yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Wanda, for the time. My name is Syed Albana. I am an expert in education, and well, I think regarding the topic and following the points delivered by who was that before? Julfa, yeah, Julfa. This is a very strategic solution and maybe should be implemented in our daily life as a parent appropriately. So from educational standpoint, I can see this as a cycle that we can implement to our children or our teenagers, to be specific. First and foremost, what is where is the best place to start an education? Uh, there is no greater place to start from your home. So the parent must must provide the children with parental guidance in using social media. Okay, so after what actually do parents have to guide to these teenagers? Well, following the points from Jofa, first is digital or media literacy. Parents have to teach their teenagers to be aware in this digital era, to have the ability to navigate the internet and well, social media platforms, to be literate and understand the context and have the ability to differentiate where is the facts and the hoax. And then after that, other than providing the digital literacy, parents should also limit the screen time of internet use for at least less than 2 hours. That is the ideal time for teenagers to use social media. But if no one is better aware of their children, so maybe it can be more flexible depending on your style of parenting, and maybe Jasmine can support this idea. And then after limit the screen time, parents should also be promoting online safe space for their teenagers. Okay, so as the parent, you have to be a role model for the teen, and then suggest the healthy virtual environment so you can, well, do or act appropriately in social media platforms, so that what you do, what you post, how you use it, what the people you are following, the content creators that you are following, will have the same amount exposures as to you and to your teenagers. And then, well, with this cycle, I think it is safe to assume that teenagers would be, at least at the very least, be prevented in doing negative behavior, or maybe limiting their exposures to well, violence, drug, and alcohol. I think that is all for me. I'll give it back to Wanda.
Okay, thank you for that insight and that parenting tips on how to prevent or how to educate children from their parents in the usage of social media. Okay, the next point of view is that let's invite Putri Nurwanda as a Muslim cleric to share her point of view in this matter of social media violence and drug in minors context.
Okay, thank you, Wanda. First of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In the spirit,
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
in the spirit of fostering dialogue and understanding, we gather today to discuss a critical issue that concerns us all, safeguarding our teenagers from the perils of violence, drugs, alcohol, and unhealthy social media. Right? I agree with the statement that Shahid said before. Parents have an important role for teenagers, but as Muslims, it is our collective responsibility to address these challenges and guide our youth towards faith and righteousness. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad SAW emphasized the importance of community and mutual support. In Hadith, he said that the example of a believer to another believer is like a building whose different parts enforce each other. Today, we come together as a community to strengthen the moral fabric that binds us. I have some thought how to, how to help the teenager from this thing. The first one, we should understanding the challenges. Let us first acknowledge the challenges that our teenagers face. Exposure to on-screen violence, the allure of unhealthy social media, and the temptation to experiment with drugs and alcohol are genuine concerns. As Muslim clerics, we recognize the need to address the issues with empathy, understanding, and a commitment to finding a practical solution rooted in our faith. Next, the important things that we should do is nurturing Islamic values. Islam provides a comprehensive guide for living a balanced and virtuous life. We must actively instill Islamic values in our youth, emphasizing the importance of compassion, tolerance, and self-discipline. By fostering a strong connection with Allah and encouraging regular prayers, we can help teenagers navigate the complexities of the modern world. Next, the important things also, we should open communication and education. Creating an environment where open communication is encouraged is essential. Teenagers should feel comfortable when discussing their concerns, fears, and experience. As mentors and parents, we must take initiative to educate our youth about the harms of violence, substance abuse, and the pitfalls of excessive social media consumption. Next, what we should do is building resilience. Our faith teaches us the importance of resilience in the face of challenges. Encourage our teenagers to develop strong characters, vision, and ability to withstand peer pressure. We can share stories from Islamic history that exemplify the strength of character and commitment to righteousness. And in conclusion, preventing our teenagers from falling into the traps of violence, drugs, alcohol, and unhealthy social media requires a united effort. As Muslim clerics, parents, and community members, let us work collaboratively to nurture a generation that is resilient, moral, upright, and deeply connected to their faith. Last but not least, may Allah guide us in this endeavor and protect our youth from the dangers that surround them. Amen. I think that's all. I give it back to the house.
Okay, thank you for that delightful insight from a Muslim cleric known as Putri Nurwanda. The last point of view before we move on to the Q&A session is from Nabila Jasmine as a parenting expert. So what are your point of view in this matter? Time and screen are yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wanda, for the opportunity. It is so interesting to hear the opinion from all of the panelists here, and I completely agree with all of your argument, especially from Ms. Julfa, about the correlation between the violence, drugs, and also the unhealthy social media. We call it like this problem is like a vicious circle. So, as a parenting expert, if we discuss about the role of parenting in this issue, we will return to the main concept of a relationship because from a teenager as a children, they have a relationship with their parents. Is it family? And the key of a good relationship is a healthy communication. So before we think about what the steps that already conveyed by Mr. Shahid before, like the tips and tricks on educating our children, we have to think first about whether the communication that exists in the family relationship can be categorized as the healthy communication. So I ask, as the parenting expert, I always got a problem or maybe complaint from the parents about their children that doesn't want to open up with them. So this is an example of bad communication between the parents and the children because when a children feel the parents didn't know they deeply, but when I ask the parents will confidently answer that I really know my children. I know my children deeply. So I think this is a miscommunication between the children and parents. So let's take the argument from Miss Julfa before as an example. There's the example of parenting mistakes in the form of lack of parental supervision and also the impact of unhealthy social media. As she said before that there are so many content or in social media, maybe from this or Instagram, that promoting suicidal behavior and also promoting drugs and alcohol. So it can be categorized as violence also. And if we take in this case, this child or adolescent that according to the World Health Organization or WHO, it's state that the adolescent is the person between ages 10 to 19. So in these ages, they try to find their identity and their interests. So in this situation, they really need an attention, validation, and also support. So if they didn't get the attention, the validation, and the support from their parents, they will try to find it from another sources like social media or maybe their friend. So they will try to take people attention by doing self-harm or maybe doing drugs or alcohol. So they hope people can give them support like you can do it, you don't do it please, you can pass this. Okay, so this is good if the environment supporting them, but how if the environment didn't supporting them? For example, there is a term in our society that said a negative affirmation will spread to other people. So maybe their friends or maybe the people in social media will feel that the people is give me a bad impact or negative affirmation. So people will avoid them. And then the person that feel avoided by the people, it will be feel depressed or maybe sad. So it will create an interest for them to join the world of drugs, of violence. They will be more emotional and abusive. So we return to the first point where the communication is important in the relationship, because good communication can create opportunities for the parents to get the children more deeply. For example, when their teenagers child tells a story about their friends, the parents can assess, or maybe the parents can identify, are their friends is good, or are their friends give bad impact in their life. Or the parents can also monitor their activities on social media, because the children then start to open up to their parents, who wouldn't hide their status they make in social media from their parents. And so the parents can monitor the activities of the children in the social media easily. So, in conclusion, that when the parents have managed to recognize their child well, or their child will start to open up, it will provide opportunities for the parents to monitor their child life. I think that's all from me. I give it back to the host.
Okay, thank you, Nabila Jasmine, as a parenting expert in this matter. Okay, since we have like around 9 minutes left of this academic discussion, I'm going to be giving a scenario, and I'm going to be asking each and every one of you's point of view in this matter. So the scenario would be that I understand that all of your point of view are to prevent the harm of children getting exposed to drugs or like violence or like social media that are very harmful. However, what about the scenario of the case would be that imagine this 9-year-old little girl who has like a very busy parents, and who has been taken care of by their babysitter, for example, and is being exposed to social media and an unhealthy environment, just because the babysitter are actually watching it 24/7. Probably it does not mean that the lack of the exposure that this 9-year-old little girl is still getting up to like miscommunication in like, or misuse of drugs and stuff, because some people may introduce it to them in other environments such as school environment. So I would like to hear all the point of view, and you may start, from Bella as a psychologist in this matter.
Okay, Thank you, Wanda, for the opportunity once again. After hearing about the parenting tips and the communication from Kang Sahid and Jasmine, those arguments evolve around the parenting tips, or the role of the parents to support their children. So I think outside of the parental consideration, we also can do several things. So as a psychologist, to prevent this, we can educate teenagers about the dangers of drugs, alcohol, violence, and social media. And what we can do is that one possible solution is we can hold an interactive workshop that will engage teenagers actively using like multimedia, real life stories, and also maybe infographic and discussion to make the information more relatable. So that in addition to that, we can also incorporate a peer education program where they can share information and experiences related to the substance abuse, because peers in this matter is considered to have a significant influence on one another, as I mentioned before. So I think that's all.
Okay, thank you, Jufa, as a psychology. Let's hear it from the professor of education or an expert, from Kang Shahid Albana. Time and screen are yours.
Okay. All right. This is a very peculiar scenario where the points that I've mentioned before are significantly less practical, I assume. So, well, from busy parents, I think they are still obliged to monitorize their children through, whether it's a babysitter or maybe another guardian that they assign to take care of their children, where they have to leave the house. So, well, this is interesting. I think it is best for them to first, when they choose and pick the guardian of or the babysitter, I think they have to be very strictly selective on who they're going to choose, and then after that, maybe assign a list. So when you're going to leave your children to someone else, make sure that the assignments are clear, the rules of maintaining them are clear. So you don't want them to at least uh, lose the sight on your children. So I think that is the best and most ideal uh, solution for this scenario. But I don't know. I I don't really have another solution to come to my mind. I think that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that insight. Let's move on to the insight of a Muslim cleric. So time and screen are yours, Putri Nurwanda.
Okay, thank you, Wanda. Yeah, in my opinion, therefore, it's very important to include some Islamic religious elements in school because Islam is very concerned about it, right? About these things. So if children are not taught at home, at least they can get some direction at school. I think that's all, Wanda.
Okay, thank you for that insight. Let's move on to the last participant of this discussion would be the parenting expert. So what are your opinion, Nabila Yasmin?
Okay, thank you, Wanda. So maybe I just give a brief explanation like tips or maybe the things that do and don't in doing a parenting to prevent your teenagers from these problems. So the first one is don't punish your children when they get failed because it will make them interest to start something that give that influence from them. And also maybe talking about this thing like drugs or maybe violence and unhealthy of social media, it will be very taboo in family because most of child talk about this with their friends. So the parents have to try to be the friends of their children, and also the last but not least, the parents have to be a good role model for the children, so they can get the good example from their parents. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you for that insight, Nabila Jasmine. Okay, so since we have around 2 minutes left, is there any questions or rebuttals from each and every one of you as a participant or audience? I will give you guys around 15 seconds to think about it. Okay, if there is no more point of view or clarification or rebuttals around this academic discussion, allow me to summarize what we have discussed today. In today's academic discussion, we have discussed about the risk factor from social media or drug use or even alcohol and violences that has been exposed to teenager. And this can come from unexpected behavior or as a coping mechanism from the lack of spending time together with their parents or their guardian. And then one possible solution would be that that the role of the parent is to educate their own children about these social media factor and giving them a limitation and age preference according to the social media usage of it. So without further ado, I would like to close this academic discussion by stating Hamdallah together, Alhamdulillah, and thank you to all the participants in today's discussion. And if there's any additional comments or point of view, you may say that at the end of the session or in another time. So wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.